Hi, this video is to describe a little bit more about pieces of the triad, dyad, trauma type, and therapies presentation that is going to be due on week 6 on Sunday. So this is a significant piece of your overall course. It is worth 20% of the final grade, and you can see the different competencies. This really gives you a chance to build upon everything you've been learning from week 1 and the different types of lenses that you've looked at trauma, the different dimensions of trauma, whether it's physical, emotional, social, and really try to think about the type of trauma, the population, and then, of course, what interventions are evidence-based and available for these populations. So it's an assignment that just brings all of that together. So based on the type of trauma that you signed up for in week 1, you were grouped with students with the same type of trauma. And so all of you will have dyads or triads. And so together you will work on a presentation that will focus on different types of therapeutic approaches or interventions. And so this presentation will really focus on how to treat a particular type of trauma, even if the populations that you have all chosen are different. And so you will have a check-in in week 5 just to let me know how your group project is going further. And that's just to let me know again how you've decided to divide up responsibilities and what types of interventions you've chosen to focus on. And so this presentation, as I mentioned, is due Sunday of week 6. Only one person is needed to upload this presentation in week 7 in the discussion forum. But it is due prior on week 6 and then again uploaded. So each member of the group needs to choose one therapy to focus on that will be different from the therapies chosen by the other members. And to that end, each member needs to read a total of 2 articles about the type of therapy. The articles need to fit in the guidelines that your articles for your lit review did, which is that they're recent, they're published in the last 10 years, they're at least 10 pages long, they come from scholarly peer-reviewed journals, and they're not lit reviews in themselves, because that would just be so too large. And in week 4, I have you upload them. So as a group, you want a presentation using PowerPoint or Prezi. You can use either narration in that PowerPoint or you can leave it without. That's fine. We ask that you use full sentences and just complete sentences, since if we don't have narration, we're not going to understand what you mean. So we want this to really be able to stand alone. Work to not overcrowd slides with too much information. This is something I've seen in the past to be a problem, and it should be really distilling readable information for someone to understand the points without having read the articles itself. So you're really pulling the essence of these articles and really helping us understand what concepts can be contributed to this overall picture. And so this presentation needs to have some introduction to the presentation. We need to see what your trauma topic is, maybe hear a little bit about this, and also give us a sense of the roadmap ahead. And so this should be about 1 to 2 slides. You'll see each section has suggested slides. And, it's not recommended to go beyond those slides. We really want you to work on being concise. You will have some incorporation of the lit review. This will be 2 to 3 slides per student. And so you'll use the articles that you had chosen to explain the trauma topic and the chosen population. And then we come to the Zoom role play video. And this was an area that many people had questions about. And so in this portion, we have your group will record a 15-minute Zoom role play video together, uploading the video to YouTube to share in the presentation. Students will each have 5 minutes for their role play part. You'll need to choose one of the following elements: physical, emotional, or psychological. And of course, if you just have a dyad, you just choose 2 of those. And each student takes a turn really being the person who is teaching the impact of that dimension, physical, emotional, or psychological, and the group's type of trauma to the other students in the group as if they're clients. And so each student is also going to include the social impact of the element that they're describing. So I want to give you a sense of our reason for using this piece in the presentation and the intention and the rationale. One is often in your work with clients, you need to be able to help the client understand why they're experiencing different symptoms or reactions. So we call this psychoeducation in some contexts. And it can just really provide the individual family group with a sense of empowerment, self-advocacy, and self-determination about their choices, as well as self-awareness that can be deeply enriching, relieving, and helpful. It allows clients to understand the why of an intervention you might use, as you also are able to work collaboratively and get their buy-in. And, we want you to practice providing basic education about trauma and the impact in a very specific area. And of course, your partners will add to those areas to help you distill key principles that would be really important to convey to an individual along their helping process. We do know from social work education that role plays are an effective pre-practice. In the context of an online classroom, this can just really be an essential piece of ensuring that you have the skills in social work beyond aspects of writing and critical thinking. And when we're using the Zoom software or web-based application, it's really a video conference tool. And so this is a style that allows there to be an actual audience rather than you pulling in a friend or family member who may not understand any of what you're talking about. And this gives you a truer to life interaction, and one that really your peers can provide helpful feedback and support as you practice how you might narrate trauma. And so this is an area that people often get a little nervous about, and I would caution you to just and really encourage you to just use it as a pre-practice for your real life scenarios. So if you go to the part of the course that is Welcome to Treating Trauma, what you'll see is there is a link for how to use Zoom. And this is under Communications and Community. And so you can see there are some really helpful videos about how to use Zoom, just giving a sense of the overview, recording videos with Zoom. And then you can also see that if you run into any trouble with Zoom, just reach out to the Widener technical support help desk for assistance. I can tell you, having personally used it for most video conferencing that I do and often recording classes, it's a very easy, user-friendly tool. So it's very obvious how to use it once you're in there. There's a big record button as well. So, but reach out for support as needed. And so you'll create a virtual meeting. One person will do that and invite the other two. You'll get a little link for it and you'll set record on it. So one member will begin and will choose one of the following elements: physical, emotional, or psychological. And this is very similar to the multifaceted lens discussion forums. So this member will describe the impact of their element for the group's type of trauma to the other two students or the other one student as though they're clients. And so you will actually see the main focus, the main screen on that first student. And there's two tiny screens. Sometimes you can do a gallery view where you can see the reactions of the other two people. And this is important because we know our clients will have different reactions and be absorbing the information, or they may have no emotional expression too, and we need to be able to respond to that and adapt. It is not necessarily a full interaction in the way that the other students are not actively questioning back or necessarily responding. It's a little bit more than a monologue for the student that's actually doing it, but there is not going to be a back and forth interaction from the other students. And so you want to make sure that you do touch upon the social impact um, of this trauma. So I'll give you an example in a second. I will say that even though the other members of the dyad or triad are going to be the clients, you can, as the student who is doing the narration, who is talking about trauma, put yourself in any role that you may feel comfortable. So it really should be a social worker role, but what specific type of role, whether it's a clinician or a case manager, that's not as important as you're really coming from the standpoint of you are the social worker and you are delivering this type of psychoeducation. So let me give you an example of how this might look. If you are choosing to talk about, the physical impact of trauma to a student who has dealt with a lot of community violence, and you're choosing a youth, so some adolescent stage, you might begin to describe some of the physical signs of hypervigilance in the high school classroom. So what is the response to sensory triggers that may go on, a teacher's raised voice, an assignment, and make it really specific and concrete. You might also talk about there is smaller hippocampal volume, smaller ability to have some of those memory banks all intact, a sense of like altered metabolism, low cortisol levels, not allowing them to get that second shot of cortisol after they've had the alarm system in their bodies really rang. They may be dealing with some sleep disturbances, and of course, this is doubled and tripled in adolescence due to some of the processes that are taking place. And they may be having some somatic complaints like headaches and stomach aches, and also difficulties with physical contact. So you'll really describe that again in the context of, say, the classroom. On a social level, in the classroom, this youth might be struggling to remain in school, to behave appropriately, to be able to sit for classes, and really be labeled as inappropriate, ADHD, low-level learning, hyperaggressive, be prone to bullying or being bullied, and subsequently really just be shuffled from classroom to classroom as a problem. So, the point of this again is to give a clear explanation that is going to help a client understand what's happening to them, have some self-awareness and insight, and also be able to buy in and connect with the treatment itself. And so when the first member completes this description, the entire group can pause. You can actually pause recording before continuing to the next person to take a transition moment. And I know a student had asked about this. Can there be segmented videos? As long as you are doing the same Zoom session, you can definitely pause at any time to collect yourself, to give each other feedback, to try again. But it will need to be in the same overall video. So you're not splicing two Zoom videos together. There needs to clearly be the presence of the entire group on the video. So this is something you want to factor into time. You want to think about a time when all of you or two of you can sit for 15-20 minutes and do one continuous recording. And if it needs to be over two sessions, that again, you're still on the same Zoom video. That's going to be the important part of this. It can be helpful if one population is decided on for the client, knowing that you may have chosen many different populations. If you choose not to do that, that's fine. You just want to identify what the developmental age is so that we know what the appropriateness of the information is and perhaps the understanding level. So hopefully that was a little bit more helpful in understanding the overall group presentation. As always, reach out for any help or needs for support, and good luck with your group presentation.